I would like to introduce speaker, Mr. Rasto Kuzel, Secretary General of MEMO 1998. The organization is an internationally recognized non-profit independent specialist media monitoring group. I'm going to hand the floor over to Secretary General Kuzel.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this very kind invitation for this important event. And I should also say that this topic is very important as we see more and more elections, of course, being now under the impact of social media. The role of social media has been really growing gradually. There are already some countries where social media has overtaken television as the main source of information. In most of the countries, it is still television, but social media really are influencing the processes, the elections. And so I'm very glad to speak with you today. Maybe if you don't mind, as I'm just joining now, you already know each other, but would it be possible to do a quick round? Maybe people can just very briefly introduce and maybe you tell me whether you came across this information and what sort of information you would like me to focus on. That would be extremely useful. Of course, I prepared presentation, but I always prefer interaction. I don't want to end up having a long monologue. I prefer if we can have a discussion. So maybe for the start, if you don't mind, just very brief introduction, so I know you know who I'm speaking with. Thank you. So maybe, I don't know, we go one by one. It's always difficult in this order.
Yeah, that's right.
I see Frederick as the first on my screen. Maybe we can start with you.
Please turn on your microphone. Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. In PNG, it's 5:39 p.m. I'm Frederick Sarike. I'm the acting director for Information and Community Awareness with the Electoral Commission of Papua New Guinea. I've been with the
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yes, I've been with the Electoral Commission for 10 years, and I have the art for my people, and I want to learn more. And you know, this type of information, we don't in our election management body, we don't integrate social media. We have the media policy. We usually go to the we use the traditional type of media like print and electronic media, but we don't go more into social media. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise. I apologize in advance if I mispronounce your names. The next one I see is Huit. Huit. Sorry.
Hello, my name is Huit. Yeah, I'm from Cambodia. I am Deputy Chief of Information and Publicity Office of Information and Public Relations. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. So then the next one I see in my screen is Joy.
Joy.
Hi, I'm Joy Manu, Deputy Director of Operations for the Solomon Islands Electoral Office. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Joy. The next one, Philotea.
Yes, hello everyone. Hello, Mr. Kezo. It's a pleasure to have you as a lecturer to hear something from your expertise and your knowledge. I'm Philotea, as you can see on the screen, and I work for the Solomon Island Electric Commission as a Communication and Public Awareness Officer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And then I have Rashnil Singh.
Hello, sir. I'm Rashnil Singh. I'm the International Relations Assistant at Pigeon Elections Office. Nice to meet you, sir. Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Looking forward. Right. Then there is also my colleague here, Samo. Would you like to introduce yourself, Samo?
Hi, sure. Yeah, I'm a colleague of Mr. Kushner, and will be essentially making a report because of this presentation for us to share on our social media. I do social media management in the MEMO 98. So yes, thank you very much for having me as well.
Good. Thanks for being with us. And then I have Rafshan.
Hello everyone. Thank you for inviting. I'm Ravshan Burkhanov from Central Election Commission of Uzbekistan. I'm lead specialist of Public Relations Department of CES Uzbekistan. Thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot. I was able to visit your beautiful country. It was roughly 20 years ago, but it was great to see, particularly the cities of the Silk Road, Samarkand, Bukhara. So it was very nice.
Samarkand is
Good.
my mother city is Samarkand.
Oh, okay. Okay, very nice. Very nice. Good.
We invite you Samarkand again after pandemic.
I would love to come. I would love to come. Certainly, really very nice place. And then I think I have Sokti, the last one on the screen. I don't know if he's with us or not.
I guess he has a kind of internet, connection problems.
Ah, okay, okay, sure. Good. So I don't know if all of us had an opportunity to introduce. If not, then maybe now it's the time. But I believe that we already completed the circle. Good. So obviously, I mean, I have to say that unfortunately, because of the pandemic, it's not possible to do this type of courses in offline mode, so to say. It would be, of course, much nicer, to be with you. And we have one more person, I believe. At least I see. Kalyan, would you like to also introduce yourself? Just very briefly.
Yes. Yes. My name is Kalyan. Is head of International Relations Office. I just come back from having lunch. Sorry for English.
Okay. No problem. I think it's always important to eat, before you are ready to digest some spiritual food, which I'm going to offer you now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope you enjoyed your lunch.
Yes, I hear you.
Very good, very good, excellent. So yeah, I was saying that of course it would have been nicer to be with you in sort of real world, so to say, not in this virtual world, but on the other hand, at least we can travel huge distances within seconds. It's really very, very interesting to see the various destinations where you come from. So Samo and I, we are from Slovakia, and we represent this organization which is called MEMO 98. I will share my screen, and basically MEMO has existed for some 22 years, and we work in Slovakia, but we also work internationally. So since '98, we have worked in about 56 countries, and these little white dots are those places where we have worked. And nowadays we focus on maybe 5 main areas. We are best known for media monitoring during elections. So in '98, we received a training from Columbia University from United States. And this methodology is designed for quantitative and qualitative analysis of the media coverage. And so with this methodology, we have worked for many international organizations such as UN, European Union, OSCE, which is probably not known so much in your area, but also, for example, with UNFREL, which are the observers in Asia. I was myself, this was a couple of years ago, I was providing training in Thailand for UNFREL observation group. So yeah, I mean, and we have also worked in Myanmar and in other places. So we are to some extent also familiar with this part of the world. I mean, where most of you come from. After 2016, we basically could not ignore the elephant in the room anymore. So first, the methodology focused primarily on television, on back in old days also on radio, newspapers in many countries of Africa where we have worked, and my colleagues in particular worked. Radio is still very important source of information. So, but after 2016, really social media and internet, started really playing visible role in elections, particularly after the US elections, when the disinformation and fake news played a role. And so we started focusing also on these aspects of elections. And now we have developed a methodology for social media monitoring. And we have been sharing this methodology now with different organizations, but also with election management bodies. So I myself work with IFES. Jinju, I think you read the paper that I wrote with Dr. Beata Martin-Rozumilovic, who is at IFES, very sort of distinguished expert on this area. And I was lucky to sort of cooperate with her, and we have been continuing this cooperation and this work. And particularly IFES has been working also with election management bodies, and I'm sure that you are familiar with that organization. Lastly, we also we believe that the best sort of response to disinformation and fake news is good quality journalism. So we support good quality journalism, and we also focus on the coverage of minorities. We believe that media often contribute to stereotyping minorities, and so that's why we are trying to do some research in this area. So today, what I would like to focus on is actually do a bit of an overview of what are the current vectors of disinformation. How has the information environment changed? Obviously, before, when we had mainly television, we can't say that disinformation did not exist. I mean, disinformation has been here, since early ages of the population. But I will focus on what changed in this aspect, how social media became sort of active in this area, and why is it causing this type of problems that we see for the integrity of elections? So, as I said, I mean, we recognize the vectors of disinformation could be still traditional media, could be television, print, online, radio. I would be eager to hear from you, maybe a little bit later, what are the main sources of information in your countries. In Slovakia, it is still television, but the second source is already online media, and particularly in that sense, also social media, and Facebook is clearly the most popular social media in Slovakia. But there are, of course, the situation varies from country to country. For example, when we look at Twitter, it is more popular in the context of US elections. When we look at WhatsApp, for example, I have also worked in Nigeria as well as my colleague, and over there, WhatsApp was really the most popular way, how people were distributing and receiving the information. So the situation can be really different from country to country. So let's focus a little bit on who are those who are spreading the disinformation. Who are these actors who are basically engaged in spreading disinformation, in polluting the information space prior to elections. So I would sort of divide them into two main categories. I would start with external sources. So we see that some countries basically are interested to undermine, democracy as a system, and so they are spreading, they are trying other countries' elections. And so we saw this during the Brexit referendum. We saw this in the United States, for example, and we can see it in other areas. And so this is something that was very much visible, particularly in 2016, but these attempts by these countries continue up until nowadays. However, I would say since maybe 2017, we see that there are many elections where this type of disinformation is actually circulated by internal actors. And these are basically, and I will show you, these are the categories of internal actors who are engaged in spreading disinformation. So during elections, these are primarily or mainly politicians and political parties. They are interested to influence the outcome, so they are throwing dirt at their opponents, and they are using, social media. They are quite often using, they hire people, they hire trolls, and these trolls are then circulating this type of information about their opponents. Another important category are influencers. So these are people who really have a high number of followers on Facebook, on Instagram, and they have become, let's say, popular on social media. And so quite often we see nowadays that even commercial companies, but also political parties approach these influencers, who they can have 1 million followers, for example, on Facebook or on Twitter. And of course, whatever they write, people read, so this could be another group that can circulate this type of disinformation. But we are familiar with the criminal organizations. I mean, violent extremists, such as so-called ISIS. So these people also use social media, to spread their propaganda, their disinformation. But it could be also individuals. you may have heard that one of the most popular actors during the US elections was a teenager from Macedonia, which is a small country in Europe, who just wanted to make some money. And so he set up some fake websites which looked like serious news outlets, and he was circulating disinformation there, particularly about Hillary Clinton as a candidate in the 2016 elections. So yeah, that can be also individuals or basically others who are seeking to destabilize information. I will make a little stop here just to check whether there are any questions so far, whether everything is clear, or you want me to explain something at this stage. Please don't hesitate to stop me at any time. I just want to make sure that you don't fall asleep as I'm speaking. So good. So I take these as there are no questions, so we will continue. So let's dive in a little bit into these external actors. So these are basically states that, as I mentioned, try to achieve their goals by using social media. So basically, as you all know, or you may know, and this was already sort of investigated, but that external actor in the US elections in 2016 was Russia. So Russia hired, there were 13 Russians who were actually inside the United States, and they were organizing, different demonstrations. They were purchasing advertisement on Facebook, on Instagram. And basically the main idea was to sort of divide voters, to polarize voters. And although it was never officially proven, but many people believe that they also helped Trump, to get to be elected in 2016. One of our colleagues is actually observing elections in the US now, these upcoming elections. Maybe some of you probably may have watched the debate yesterday, which I understand was much more civilized than the first one. So what I wanted to say was that this time it looks like this disinformation is really coming from inside. So there are various groups, radical groups, white supremacists who are basically using social media to spread hate, to spread disinformation. But at the moment, there is no such information, or at least I'm not aware of it, that it would be Russia again being engaged in this type of campaign. So as for the other actors, it can be also groups. It could be also individuals, who again may have interests to earn money or to recruit people, like for these radicals. So they are also very dangerous when it comes to this type of disinformation. You may be familiar with also some events when people really record on social media some horrific crimes, like it was in Australia, for example, but also in other countries, and so in that sense, social media is a very dangerous tool, particularly if the platforms are not able to somehow delete this type of dangerous content, and so that way helping the criminals to actually achieve what they want to achieve. So these were basically the actors who are spreading the disinformation. Let's focus a little bit on the forms of disinformation. So in what way, you can actually see disinformation being spread. So first of all, these are basically fake media houses. It's so easy on Facebook to actually set up a Facebook page which would look exactly the same as, for example, ABC News or some reputable media organization. Actually, Facebook has been doing everything to make their platform very easily used by journalists, and so it's not that difficult really to set up abc.co.uk or something, or US or com, and then it's very easy. In 5 minutes one can really set up such a fake page and can start distributing this type of information. So that's why it's very important that we always check this type of information that we are consuming, that we always make sure that this source is reliable and it can be fact checked and proved. Then there are also websites, which are fake. Again, it's not that difficult to set up a website these days. Of course, it depends on the country, but the world of internet obviously is a global world, and now you can really do many things with this. And of course, it's relatively easy to set up fake accounts and profiles. This is maybe easier on Twitter, maybe a little bit more difficult on Facebook, but it's still possible pretty much on these platforms to set up fake profiles. It's even possible, of course, on Twitter and also on Facebook to set up bots, which will be, I don't know if people are familiar with bots. These are, so to say, robots, which will be distributing information on your behalf. So you actually don't have to do anything, but you have some artificial intelligence, some robots, doing this type of distribution for you. So let's move on with and this is exactly what I was saying, that, and this is one thing where I want to make a short stop and perhaps give you one example. Many years ago, when I was still young and I had some hair, I worked in Ukraine, and Ukraine was a country of the former Soviet Union, and it was actually in 1999 I was observing my first election, and it was a presidential election, and at that time Ukraine was very far from democratic, so they had one ruler, one president. So when you turn on television, basically first 15 items were about this president. He woke up in the morning, he went to the toilet, he went to get his breakfast, and so on and so forth. So the only and they had opposition. So there were four opposition candidates who were running. When it came to the media, the incumbent, he monopolized everything. So he had all television, all newspapers, all radio, pretty much whatever I was afraid to open my fridge in the evening that he would jump out of the fridge. There was so much coverage of him, On the other side, these four opposition guys, they had one newspaper. Now, Ukraine is a relatively big country. 53 million people. And this circulation of this paper was approximately 400,000, So not so much, let's say, for such a big country, but still not bad. They were able to circulate this paper also in the regions. So every morning when I came to my office, I would always open this newspaper as the first thing in the morning. I would read it. And so one day I come to the office, open the paper, which always was very critical of the president and very praising the opposition. And suddenly I could not believe my eyes. It's the other way around. They are praising the president and they are criticizing the opposition. So I check, I'm looking, is this the same newspaper? Yes, it is. Everything is there, logo, circulation numbers, everything. And so I did not understand what was happening. It was morning, so I was not tired, so everything was fine with me. So later on, I found out that someone distributed 400,000 fake copies of this newspaper. Can you imagine? You know, this was in 1999. You know, almost 500,000 of issues of a newspaper. So of course, later we found out that this was done by the state. You know, the state printing house basically distributed this sort of fake content, and yeah, and people just received completely different information. You know, very negative about these opposition people. Why do I tell you this? Because this was in 1999, and it was one newspaper. Yeah. So how many people could read it? I mean, okay, 400,000 people, maybe more. Maybe one family buys one newspaper, maybe more people read it, but not more than 1 million people, I would say. Yeah, at the maximum, probably fewer. Well, nowadays, when you circulate this type of information on social media, within seconds, it can reach millions of people. Yeah, this is the big difference when it comes to disinformation. That disinformation was here before. I mean, fake news. You know, it's just as I say, it's an old wine which is now distributed in a new bottle. Yeah, but this new bottle is very effective. I mean, it is really very efficient and effective. You know, it's very cheap, and you can do it yourself. I mean, anyone can do it, and it can reach huge audiences within few seconds. So this is what is the big difference, you know, nowadays. And when we look at the actual disinformation, or as it's called, fake news, we are basically recognizing a few aspects which are related to this. I mean, this could be done in the form of messages. This could be done in the form of narratives, and this could be done in the form of hate speech. You know, so it can be really, of course, very dangerous if during elections, you know, you have candidates who are spreading hateful messages. You know, like for example, as I mentioned, I worked in Myanmar, and there is a big problem, obviously, with the Rohingya minority. And I'm sure that you follow the exodus of Rohingya into Bangladesh. And so this, what preceded to this was actually post on Facebook, posted by the military, you know, who were basically spreading hatred, who were talking very negative and nasty things about Rohingya. And so it really escalated very quickly. And then people, they believed what they saw on Facebook, because in Myanmar, the digital media literacy is very low. And so they really believed when they saw pictures, you know, that Rohingya allegedly are looting or they are, I don't know, committing some crimes. They took their machetes and they just went there, you know. And so this is extremely, extremely dangerous, as well as divisive narratives, you know. So this is basically what we look at when we actually analyze disinformation. I will make another stop here just to check how we are doing. Are we still awake and people have any questions? Don't be shy. Everything is clear so far.
Yes,
Very
yes,
good.
very clear.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. So then we'll continue, and we'll focus on who are the targets of this disinformation. So the targets of disinformation could be candidates. Obviously, here I should say that we recognize some candidates as particularly vulnerable. We are talking mainly about women candidates, you know, who in many countries have become subjects of hatred, of disinformation, that are spread, by social media, sometimes unfortunately also by official media. So particularly this category, I mean, female candidates, women are very vulnerable group when it comes to the targets of disinformation. Then, of course, from a more general perspective, we are talking about political parties. We are talking about minorities and vulnerable groups in general, as I mentioned, for example, Rohingya, but there are others. This could be also people below the poverty line, poor people. This could be some other, this could be sexual minorities, LGBT. I have some examples from my country, unfortunately, that I will show you. So basically, yes, I mean, this could be also journalists, who are doing work, investigative journalists, as we have seen it, for example, with Maria Reza, who I actually had a chance to meet, and I know that she's quite a prominent journalist in the region. So yeah, I mean, this is another vulnerable category, and they could really make a hell for those people who are being targeted, because they spread really fake information that is not true, and then people, particularly if they really believe more on what they see on social media, then of course it's very, very difficult for this. So why people are spreading this type of disinformation? I mean, what is the purpose of this? I mean, why someone is interested, to do this type of of very bad very bad things when it comes to elections? Well, it's certainly to undermine the democratic processes. It is really to spread some confusion, because when we look at these disinformation campaigns, for example, in 2016, even though many believe that this helped Trump to win the elections, but I believe that the main idea behind this was really just to polarize people, just to undermine democratic institutions, to spread confusion. I mean, if you look at the way how this disinformation is being spread, they don't offer their own truth. I mean, they rather try to undermine the notion of truth. They say, oh, no one knows what is actually truth, and they offer 4, 5, 6 different versions of a story. This was, for example, when Ukraine separatists shot down the plane MH17 over the territory of eastern Ukraine, when many people died, and then we were focusing on how Russia was trying to interpret this incident, and there were 8 to 9, maybe to 12 different versions of the story, which again, the main idea was really to spread some doubt, to undermine basically the notion that truth exists and facts exist. If you look at Trump, President Trump is actually the most prominent actor who is spreading disinformation. He's calling the serious media, he's calling them fake news. That's why I'm not using actually fake news, but rather disinformation, because he already moved the meaning of this word fake news to some new dimension, and I don't want to follow that pattern because it's a wrong pattern. Yeah. So but he is clearly, whatever he does, the way he undermines the basic principles. He's undermining the integrity of his own election. He's currently the president, so he is in charge of organizing these elections in the US. Well, he's been saying already for months that there will be fraud because of the mail voting, for example. So, this is exactly the type of very negative influence that, this type of people, and with him, this is the most influential person in the world, he's the US president, and he's so irresponsible by spreading this type of messages, this type of, this type of confusion, sowing this doubt that there is something wrong with the mailing system. Whereas if you look at the history and if you look at the facts, I mean, it's generally very, very good method. I mean, of course, this year, as you know yourself, because you are from election management bodies, you have to deal with this very hot potato, organized or not organized elections during the pandemic, and we can maybe discuss it a little bit later. But of course, there will be certainly the system will be more tested this time because there will be more people, voting, or there have already been 46 million people who voted in the US elections, and many of them used this opportunity to vote by mail. But, there is no evidence whatsoever that this mail system would be, would be open to this type of manipulations that the president is talking about. Yeah. So basically, the purpose is really to undermine the election as a democratic system, and basically to sow a doubt, to spread confusion. Now, I should say that in the way how we looked at this disinformation, we basically acknowledge that there are different phases of these processes. I mean, and these are different phases, different impacts when it comes to disinformation. So first of all, we recognize that there is a long-term impact. This is basically when this type of disinformation is trying to cause polarization, it's attacking the democratic institutions, it's basically is trying to sort of spread political apathy. People don't believe to anyone. This president is the same as the previous president. There are no differences. They all lie. They all steal money. This type of messages. And this is usually happening like in between elections. Yeah. So, for example, if the elections happen every 4 years, so usually this long term is usually whenever the previous election finished. You have this long-term process of which precedes the next election. Then you have medium term, and these are usually happening during election campaign. So it could be official election campaign in some countries. Obviously, this is stipulated by the law. It can be, 30 days, it can be 20 days of election campaign. And during this period, we have seen discrediting campaigns. We have seen divisive narratives being spread. For example, during the EP elections, there was the big topic was migrants, who were basically traveling from the Middle East and also from Africa to Europe. And this was used by some radical politicians to say, that there are so many of these migrants, they want to come to Europe, they want to take our jobs, they want to abuse our women, this type of negative, divisive narratives, spreading animosity towards migrants. And of course, then you had also politicians who were tolerant. I mean, who were basically saying that it's important for Europe to stick up to the values, and we should help people, particularly who were escaping from war zones, or to those who really were in need. So, of course, this was there were two sides of the coin. I should mention one important thing when it comes to disinformation, and this is micro-targeting. I think this is really the key to understanding, how we are basically becoming targets of impact from social media platforms. Yeah, and this is something which they don't want to talk about. It's a black box. But this is how they make money. So whatever you do on your Facebook account, this is very much tracked down by, of course, the algorithms. And so I don't know, if you look up something, I don't know, you are a hunter and you would like some posts of hunters, then the next day, of course, you get an offer to buy a rifle or something, as an example. So I believe that this is what we are currently doing in Europe. We are trying to come up with legislation which would force these companies to be more transparent when it comes to these algorithms. Yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge that micro-targeting is an important part of this, and we should be in a position to know more about this. And then, of course, this is short term. This is what is happening, for example, on election day. I mean, we have seen, and you have seen, as election management bodies attempt, to distribute the information. For example, in US, I know that during the midterm elections, people received confusing messages. Your polling station number has changed. You are not going to that place where you always vote, but you go to some other place. And then you go to the other place and you find out that actually, no, you were supposed to go to the first place. So, this type of, and these are attempts to suppress the turnout. These are attempts to undermine the integrity. Of course, I know that you yourself very often become targets of disinformation, which is to undermine your credibility, your integrity. Those who prepare maybe some kind of manipulations, or they basically want to claim the victory after the elections, but they lose, and you say the winner is this, and then they say, well, but look at this election management body. They are not credible because they are engaged, I don't know in what, so they are targeted attempts to undermine the reputation of election management bodies. And these are very serious issues. So yeah, I mean, this is all what is happening. And of course, this is not only happening on election day, but also after elections. And here, particularly questioning the results. I mean, again, my favorite example, Donald Trump. I've been observing elections for 22 years. For the first time in my experience, an incumbent, not the incumbent, but a candidate who won the elections in 2016 actually questioned the results, and he claimed that 3 million votes were stolen from him because he lost in the popular vote to Clinton. Yeah, Clinton won in the popular vote, but as probably some of you are familiar with the US electoral system, it's very complex. Doesn't mean if you win the popular vote that you win the elections. And Trump won the swing states, and so he was declared the winner of the elections, but he still was questioning these 3 million votes that Hillary Clinton received. In popular vote. So in fact, she won the popular vote. Yeah. So maybe a few examples, and then I will stop for Q&A, and then we will discuss what could be done from your side. So time-wise, I see that we still have more than half an hour. So maybe some examples of this disinformation. So I'm very proud that we have the first female president in our country, Ms. Zuzana Čaputová. She is really someone who really sticks to values, and in the period when people are very sort of when we see populists, when we see radicals, when we see right radical politicians, it was completely a miracle that she won the elections in our country a couple of years ago, but I share her values, and I voted for her, I should say. But she became a clear victim of a disinformation campaign on internet. And so here you can see some pictures. So one was basically that they claimed that she's Jewish, and that's they wanted to claim this by changing her nose, because people say that maybe Jewish have a bigger nose, and so they changed the picture, as you can see here, one of the disinformation websites, and then they basically say that they claim that her father, who was a businessman, had some deals with Israel, and so they try to spread this type of dirt against her, that she's Jewish, and Jewish are all bad because they want to only steal money from people, and this type of disinformation. She also is someone who is very tolerant towards minorities, and so although she herself is a Catholic, and she basically believes in God, but basically when she was asked if a kid should be with a couple of the same sex, or if it should go to the not to hospital, but to the care to the care provided by state. Sorry, I forgot the name of this now in English. She basically said, well, it's better for the kid if it has a loving couple. Doesn't matter. I mean, she believes that this should be, first of all, traditional family, a man and a wife. But she said that she recognizes these registered partners, and they could probably provide more love to the kid than the state could. Yeah. So she said something along those lines. The next day, these type of pictures were spread on internet. That she, she wants to have this type of people taking care of the kids, and basically showing some pictures from these parades, and basically saying that she wants this LGBT, and you should understand the concept here in Slovakia. I mean, we are mainly a Catholic country. I mean, the numbers, I think, is around 84% somehow, or is it something like that, if I remember correctly. So people, most of us, we believe in God, and these type of attempts are very popular among those who are spreading this disinformation, to basically say that those who are more tolerant, vis-a-vis the minorities, sexual minorities, I mean, that they want to these people to rule the country, or something along those lines. So basically, there was a lot of disinformation against her, and nevertheless, she won the elections, and I'm very pleased because she's a small island for us in this crazy world, because she's really very she possesses big respect, and she's also the most trusted politician in the country. Now, maybe some other examples from US. These are also from midterm elections. SMS messages. Yeah. So the previous one was social media, was mainly on Facebook, but this one, US voters received an SMS message about a candidate, who was running in the US midterm elections, and there was and this candidate's name was Andrew Gilliam, and basically the SMS message said that he's under active criminal investigation. and this was on the day of voting. It was not true. Yeah, I mean, it was a fake message, disinformation, which was aimed to prevent people from voting for this guy. Or another one, which was on Twitter, basically deceptive and misleading, which was basically trying to say that for men, let's stay at home, let only women vote in these elections, you know, and so that was basically another fake information. You know, it was distributed on 4chan, and it was a Democratic Party logo, and they were basically again encouraging Democratic men to stay at home on election day and to let women vote more valuable. So you let women vote, and that way you make that vote more valuable. Okay, I have a few points that I want to give you for your for your inspiration. But perhaps I've been talking a lot, and maybe let's start some questions and answers, because I want you to have also the opportunity to speak and maybe to say whether you experienced any of these type of disinformation campaigns, or if you have any more specific questions, I mean, which are more linked to the situation in your own country. And of course, the slides, if we do not manage to go through all of them, they will be at your disposal, and as well as my email address. So if we don't manage to go through all the slides, I'm happy to to answer. But now I would probably say that it's better to open the floor and maybe for your comments and for your questions. Don't be shy.
Okay.
Or just feel free to unmute the microphone as well. I think there are not so many of us here, so it's also possible to go directly. I mean, just unmute, because it's better if you unmute your microphone, then we will be able to hear. Sometimes I talk, but I don't realize that my microphone is muted. So anyone, I will ask question. Okay, Frederick, please go ahead. But please, yes.
Yeah, I sent my question through the chat. My question, I sent it through the chat. It's. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but I don't know. I didn't hear the question.
My question, it's I already sent it through chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I will read it now. Is there a section in the international law that protects political ideology of citizens or country and charge those who violate or abuse the democratic processes? So political ideology, I think what you mean is probably your political opinion. Yeah, I mean that you decide to vote for this party or that party, right? I mean that's what you mean by ideology, right? Your freedom to choose. Basically, I mean in the context of elections, I mean this, if I could interpret it this way, it would mean basically your franchise. I mean your ability to vote and choose who you want to vote for, right? Is that what you meant by political ideology, or maybe try to specify if I understood that correctly?
Yeah. you are referring to the you're giving examples for democratic elections in USA. So that's why I said like democracy is very important. Like for the countries that have the democratic system of government, system of election, it's very important that we have to protect it from the outside influence, like the Russians have been doing for that clear example. And we don't know. Otherwise, in some countries like my country, in some years later, that things may happen like that. So we need like it's an external influence. So are there any laws that can protect us from another country coming into our electoral process and system, political ideology?
Now I understood. Thanks for the explanation. Well, that's a very good point and very good question, because it was visible that not even US, that I mentioned here a few times, not even them, they had a clear sort of provisions protecting the system. I mean, we saw that that it was not so difficult for these individuals from other countries, from Russia, to actually come to United States and to organize demonstrations, to buy advertisement. So I can tell you what the US did basically, or what the platforms. I mean, I will start with the platform. So maybe some of you remember that Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, he initially he laughed when he was asked whether he believed that Facebook influenced the US election in 2016. Yeah. So his initial reaction was really to say, how can you even think of this? We are here to provide the platform for everyone to connect, and all these nice words. But in reality, later it became clear that one aspect of that election was that the Russians were able to buy what we call dark ads. So dark ads are ads that you can, or you could, it's not possible anymore, but in 2016, anyone, regardless if he or she was in the States or outside of the States, could buy advertisement on Facebook. And so with this advertisement, you were able to micro-target a special group of voters. In the case of Trump, these were white men in the middle age in the swing states. I mean, and they approached them with ideas like, we need to build a wall with Mexico. And so basically, and these ads, I wouldn't be able to see them, you wouldn't be able to see them. Only those people targeted were able to see them on their Facebook profile. It was completely not transparent, and this practice doesn't exist anymore. So the platforms established a new policy. They established the Facebook library, which works not in all the countries, unfortunately, but it is operational in many countries already. Everyone can, you can check Facebook ad library for the US elections, for example. You should be able to access it, and it shows you all the expenditures that candidates invested in the election. And it's impossible for me, as Rasta Kuzel from Slovakia, to purchase ads in the United States. So I have to register in my country, and I can spread the ads in my country. Yeah. So that's just one example of what platforms did. What countries should do, and many countries already have something in their electoral laws, is dealing with the money. I mean, always people say, track the money. That's the most important thing. I mean, if you want to find out what is happening. And so in electoral legislation, quite often there is a provision which is banning, foreign states, foreign individuals from financing political campaigns in other countries. Yeah. So this is another important feature. the opinion on this is not completely anonymous. There are still countries, including, for example, Sweden, where you have certain provisions allowing for certain foreign money to be present. Some experts believe that it is not the fact that the money comes from other country, but it has to be transparent. You know, they always say transparency is the most important thing, but I would say majority of countries do not allow foreign countries to participate to finance campaigns. So these are just few examples how you can prevent other countries from interfering in your elections. I mean, very specifically in the legislation. And then again, I think I would say that the problem with disinformation is clearly a global problem, and it is also a multi-stakeholder problem. So to fix it, we will need a sort of cooperation of the platforms, of the countries, of the governments, of regulators, you know, of journalists, of civil society. So it really takes all of us. Actually, I forgot the most important are users, users of social media. I mean, we should become responsible. Before sharing something, we should think twice. You know, we should make sure that it's a reliable source. So I see that there is, I don't know, Frederick, if I satisfied you or you have some additional point to make. Okay. Then I see from Ravshan a question. In US, Federal Election Commission signs contract with social media such as Facebook, YouTube, Twitter to, or rather against spreading disinformation and against fake, you mean probably against these bots. If you know, please tell us how effective this method and how we sign contract with social media like this. A very good point. Again, just basically confirming what I have said. And by the way, maybe I will respond with a question to you. Can I see how many of you have been in touch with platforms in your countries? I mean, prior to elections, because I know I have been basically in touch with Facebook, and I know that particularly after the 2016 elections, there has been some kind of effort also from the side of Facebook in particular to reach out to election management bodies. So can we just get a quick indication how many of you were approached by platforms?
We are using Facebook, Twitter, Telegram Messenger. Only these three platforms we use.
Okay, and have you been in touch with any of the representatives, either in your country or let's say outside of your country, that anyone has contacted you from these platforms?
Yes, of course. Via Facebook, we keep in touch with our audience. We take appeals from citizens via Facebook. And our commissioners read these appeals.
Right, but what I meant was rather whether Facebook as a company, whether they approached you as an election management body in Uzbekistan to basically discuss elections, to discuss some cooperation between you and Facebook. I mean, I don't mean like, I understand that everyone uses, or many of us use Facebook, but what I'm looking at is more whether you as a commission, whether you have some kind of discussion, negotiations or cooperation with these platforms.
No.
No. Anyone?
No, we don't make any contracts with corporation like Facebook and others.
Okay. Anyone else from the group? Has anyone been in touch with with Facebook or with any other social media company? No? No one. Okay. Interesting, because I think they now really try to reach out. They really, or maybe we can take it from the other perspective. I mean, if you would like to be in touch, I think I could try to maybe provide those contacts. But what I know is that Facebook really is actively now communicating with election management bodies in other countries, and they really try to do some kind of assistance. I mean, they try to explain how things work. They even in Slovakia, they even conducted some trainings with the media regulator prior to elections. So there is certainly one thing which I will write in chat. I vote Australia, for example. I think it was Australia like this, or I vote America. So these were projects basically where Facebook promoted the turnout. I mean, they try to motivate people. So people were basically posting on Facebook that I voted in these elections, and of course not showing, of course, the ballot, because that would be undermining the secrecy of the vote, but rather to say, that I participated in these elections. So it's like get out and vote campaign. It's to encourage people to vote, to tell them, when the election day is happening, sometimes even providing information for the numbers. But that's why they want to partner directly with your institution. I mean, so they take you as the body which is organizing the elections, and they cooperate in this way that they pass this type of information, for example, through Facebook. Yeah.
Thank you.
And so back to the question. And again, it's a very good question, because as I said, it's such a multi-dimensional problem that we will not be able to fix it without the platforms. Yeah, I mean, so we need to speak with them. We need to demand them to be more transparent. We need to understand, what is happening behind the black box. How do they? It's a problem, because of course they always say, oh, it's our business model. We don't want to disclose this information, but I think the way, I mean, these companies are so big that we cannot talk about private entities anymore. I mean, they entered public spaces, and so we have rights to demand transparency, and we are very concerned about what they are doing to our democratic processes, because the very business model of this social media is to push polarizing information. You may have read that a lie travels 7 times faster than truth on social media. Yeah, so people are more interested in sensations, and they are not interested in boring stuff that we offer them during elections. It's a story, but that's unfortunately how it is. So coming back to that question, so I know for sure that there is a similar activity in European Union. It's called Code of Conduct on Disinformation, which was signed with all these big platforms, with Facebook, Twitter, Google, Mozilla, and others, and it's a very similar as you are describing here. And what happened was that European Union signed this contract, and then they tasked regulators who are associated under ERGA to actually monitor implementation of this code. So they focused mainly on 5 areas of this code, and I'll be happy to share that code with you, just to give you a flavor of how it looks like. But these are, I would say, more general points under which the platforms agreed, to share data, to share information. But the experience, our experience, and also experience of those who monitor this code is that it is still, Facebook doesn't want to disclose all the data. Yeah. So even though if you go to this ad library and you can pull out a lot of data on people spending money, but you don't get all the data. Yeah. For us, for example, my organization has been onboarded to CrowdAngle, which I'm putting now in the chat. This is a very good tool for even for EMB. If you decide, and we didn't discuss these points, I may go quickly through them, or you may read them in my presentation. But the one thing that I propose as a solution for EMB to deal with this information is to do media monitoring, to do social media monitoring. You can either, I mean, most likely you will not have the capacity to perhaps do it directly, but you can outsource, or you can work with an institution, with a university, or with an NGO that, like us, we have been onboarded to CrowdAngle. Now, what does it mean? This is the most powerful platform, which basically can monitor all public pages and all open groups on Facebook. Yeah. So, for example, we have a global access to CrowdAngle, so I could go to any of your countries, and I can put Facebook pages, open Facebook pages, to our system, and I can send you the data maybe in an hour. Yeah. And I can mine the data for historic data. So like whenever this Facebook account was established, I can give you all the data from the very beginning. Meaning, what I mean by data, I can tell you likes, shares, views, comments, numbers. Okay, I don't know. I cannot tell you who commented on this. This I don't have automatically. This you have to go manually to check yourself. But like in terms of statistics, I can get you all this data. Yeah, so it's very powerful, and this is what Facebook can give to research organizations like mine. This type of access in order for us to be able to do this type of research. And we have been doing this type of research. I mean, in many countries now, in Belarus, in Kyrgyzstan, now we are doing it in Moldova, Georgia, but we have also done it last year in many European countries. Yeah, it's a very good way to actually examine what is happening. Now, to finish answering, because your question also referred to this spreading of disinformation by bots. So this is what we call inauthentic behavior. So this is basically where the information is actually boosted or it's spread by non-humans, yeah, by robots that I set up. It's for someone who is a little bit familiar, with computers. It's not that difficult to set up a farm of bots, who will push a certain message and to make it appear as if many people are actually talking about this, many people like it, and so this is where I believe this is clearly manipulative. And if I look at UN comment 34, it talks about voters being able to make their choice free of manipulative interference. I believe that this inauthentic behavior is a manipulative interference because it sort of gives you impression that maybe a minority view, maybe a radical view, suddenly becomes a center of discussion. Yeah, and it is thanks to these bots, who are, pushing this message. So clearly, this is something that you should be able to ask platforms to take it down. Because they've been doing this. This is one area where they really take action. If you look at I do refer a lot, I apologize, to US election, but it is a test case. It is really, this election, you can see, is a test for the platforms. And what I don't like is that this geographical bias of the platform companies. They don't care about my country, they don't care about your countries, because we are small countries, some of us, with exception, of course, there are some of you from big countries, but generally we are small countries, and these platforms, they don't have commercial interests or such big commercial interest in our countries, but in US, they are under the spotlight. So look what they are doing. They banned the political ads, in this last week of elections. They banned ads questioning or disputing the outcome of elections. Why they are not doing this in all the countries, is my question. And so we should be pushing them, after these elections, don't have this geographical bias. You should be geographically blind. People are suffering in all these countries. I mean, you have to deal with this mess, that these platforms are creating in your countries. And so for this, you need to have good communication with the platforms, and you need to be able to make your voice heard, to demand that if they are able to do this type of actions in US or in Canada or in any other bigger country, UK, they should be able to do it also in smaller countries.
Thank you for
any other questions? We have roughly about 1 minute left, so I will apparently not be able to go through the slides on what actions you could take, but I think it's really well divided in my presentation into short-term, medium-term, and long-term approaches. So I would kindly ask the organizers to distribute my presentation. I can also make it available in PowerPoint, but I put it in PDF. Maybe that's enough. So if you can kindly distribute it, and also, of course, my email address. MEMO has worked, as I said, in many countries, and it's always a pleasure for us to help out whoever needs, and so we will be more than happy to provide further assistance or to provide any further advice. And also let me know if you want. I can really try to dig out the contacts for the platforms that are basically in your area, because I know some people, but I think their competencies are divided by countries. So I don't want to send you a contact for someone who is not responsible for that area. But if you write me an email, if you want to be in touch with these platforms, then I can try to provide that contact. Very good. So otherwise, thanks so much.
I have just a comment. You mentioned something about the methodology on your presentation on dissemination of information. Can you also provide some more information on that?
Absolutely. Yes. So we have come up with what I would call a methodological guide or toolkit. How it was designed particularly for civil society organizations, how to monitor social media. But I will send you a copy. It's in English.
Thank you.
so I can also do that. Jinjo, can you maybe send me emails of the participants so I can send this to everyone, or shall I send it to you and you will distribute it? Whatever is easier.
Yes, I think you'd better send the the documents to me. Then I will distribute to the every participant.
Perfect. I'll do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. And also, I encourage you. I'm also putting the link to our website. Oh, sorry, I'm doing this privately for some reason. My apologies. I was responding to Frederick, but I will put it now for everyone. So you can also check our website. I mean, we have the results of some monitoring projects focusing specifically on social media in the context of different elections, as I mentioned. So you are more than welcome to also check that. Good. So I will also share, because I think I gave it only to Frederick previously, but here is also my email. So thank you very much for your interest. It was really my pleasure, and I wish you nice remaining time with this conference. I think it's always good when you can share your experiences among yourself. I think this is always very beneficial. I truly believe in this type of sharing. That's why we are doing it as well. So it was a pleasure, and all the best. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Kuzel. It was really practical and the nice presentation. So yeah, this is the end of today's session. Yeah. So thank you for your hard work. Now it's time to go back and get some rest. So thank you for your active participation, and then see you on Monday. Yeah, at the same time. Okay. Have a good day. Thank you, Mr. Kuzel. Bye bye.
Bye bye. All the best.
Hello. I will conduct a short interview with you.
Yeah.
So what have you learned from the lecture right now, and what are your thoughts and comments about it?
First of all, I would like to thank the lecturer for sharing his knowledge on this disinformation during this election. And I have very well understood the how during the general election the disinformation are spread by the external actors to its target audiences, and also what type of hate speech and are used by the external actors. And finally, I've also learned how the EMBs can approach this issue, that is by removing these the disinformation from the social media.
All right. Thank you for waiting a little longer than other people.
Thank you.